Hello, Internet! Welcome to 2.5 Brains. This is the latest discussion of Survivor Season 42, Episode 10, I guess? Maybe 9? I don't know. Nobody really knows. We're going to break it all down here and talk all about it. Be sure to subscribe if you don't miss anything. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com, Pavement Road Productions. Pavement Road Productions on Facebook, Pavement Road Prod. You also can email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. Subscribe, share the post, tell your friends, and go from there. Jessica won't be with us this week. It'll be just me this week. Jessica's a little under the weather. Been battling a cold for about 2 weeks here, so she'll be back hopefully next week. And we're also having our NHL playoff preview show coming out here the next day or so as well when you're hearing this. So Jessica will be back for that hopefully as well. So she should be good to go for that. So be sure to subscribe so you get all our content, the sports content, the news content, and of course the reality TV nonsense as well that we do. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Let's go ahead and dive in here and talk about the 3 moments that mattered. And we'll start with that. Of course, we'll talk about who did not survive this week. And we'll, of course, go through the top 3 and bottom 3 of the week as we do. So let's go ahead and start with moment number 1 that mattered. That is Angry Mike. Moment number 1 is Angry Mike. So it was a little different. Obviously, we come back from the tribal. They usually show what happened, and who came back. When they come back and who got voted out and the people were talking about it, who got blindsided and yada yada yada. Or they do where there's a tribe. The person comes back from tribal council and the same idea, or they show them at the challenge, seeing the new tribe for the first time. But in this case, they show the first tribe coming back after voting out Roxroy. And Mike's not too pleased about it, even though Mike did vote that way. He said he felt really bad that he was kind of forced into making a decision to vote out Roxroy and going against his word. And I guess he maybe didn't have to do that. He probably could have just, gone along with it or let them vote him out. And he voted, and they voted a different way. Then, he voted a different way than the rest of his tribe. But he said he felt kind of forced into making a decision he really didn't want to make. So, and he wasn't too happy about it. And I know Omer kind of picked up on that a little bit. He's like, hey, Mike, how do you feel about being, how about Roxroy going out? And he's like, oh, man, I hate having to go against my word. I feel like Hai was kind of forcing me to do it, blah, blah, blah. And, Omer kind of took that and put it in his back pocket and saved it for later. And obviously they came back from tribal council and said, hey, who's gone or whatever. And they said, the other team came back. The other side came back. They said, we voted out Tori. And they said, okay, good decision. But would have been the good decision would have been to get rid of one of the low-hanging fruits on the other side, but they decided not to. So Tori was the easy vote and they made that vote. They didn't really go into all the details of why, I guess, or maybe they did. But either way, I digress. I do like. I kind of wish they would have, like they used to do back, when they did double boots in 1 hour years ago. It was like season 10. When they used to have the one team who won the immunity, we get to have food. They vote somebody out and have food and watch the other tribal council. I guess that was kind of still the same, but I guess the reward would have been you get to eat food and watch the team's tribal councils, the other tribe's tribal council, so you can see kind of what their dynamics are. I think that would have been helpful. I think it would have been helpful for both sides to kind of see what happened to the tribal. It's kind of a punishment to not see what happened to the tribal. The jury has more information than you do. And somebody can tell you what happened, but unless, they go into painstaking detail, you're not going to really understand necessarily what happened. So I would like to have had both teams be at each other's tribal, and maybe one team have their reward at the tribal, and they can't speak, but, or something like that. But I hate the fact that only the people who are there got to see what happened at the tribal, and then the jury. It's like, again, the jury has more information, than some of the players do in that case, which, I don't love. I don't love that. But Mike was really angry, and Omer kind of picked up on that and used it later on in the episode. We'll talk about that here a little bit later on. Number 2 is 2 for Lindsay. So number 2 is 2 for Lindsay. So Lindsay went out. They had 2 individual challenges this week. They had a challenge that was pretty simple. You have to basically balance the ball or a sandbag through an obstacle course and put the thing, put the platform down and then land the sandbag on the platform. It was very close. Jonathan was really close. I think Hai was actually pretty close a couple times. And actually Lindsay ended up landing it. And they said, okay, you can pick one person to go with you. The reward was for pizza, right? And it was you could sleep in a bed, and they're like a little sanctuary, basically a little shelter, free from the wind and the rain and everything, because it was pouring that the start of the episode. It was really cold, and so you have to do that. And Lindsay won the challenge, and they asked her who she wanted to take. She said, "Well, Omer hasn't been on any challenges and any rewards yet, so I'm gonna take Omer." And then she said, "Can I take one more?" And Jeff said, "Yep, take one more." So she picked Mike because Mike was kind of, Mike was feeling, Mike didn't get as much as other people had in rewards and everything like that. So that's what she said, and nobody seemed to really push back on it. Everybody's like, okay, seemed like it was fine, even though they were really cold. They said, oh yeah, it's okay. But ultimately, it was not just a being nice to Mike type of thing. It was a let's do this strategically. She brought her number one ally Omer because she's talking about maybe flipping on Jonathan because Jonathan's such a big threat. And she said early in the episode that it was his lack of strategy could hurt her. So it might be better to get rid of him and A, get the threat out of the game, B, somebody who's not very strategic. You can get them out of the game so that way she's free to kind of free of his bad decisions and having to talk him off the ledge for making bad decisions, like targeting Marianne and whatnot. So she worked with Omer, and then she wanted to bring in Mike because Mike again seemed like he was kind of upset with the whole high. It kind of made it high for forcing the move on Roxroy, and Mike said to High, "Oh, it's fine, don't worry about it." But everybody could tell that it wasn't really. He was not happy about it. So they went to the reward, and they talked about it, and Omer kind of brought up. He goes, "You know what? I don't want to tell you this, but High said to me that you are like his number one, but like number one in terms of like you'll do whatever he says because you're not even actually playing the game." And Mike was angry about it. Like, how could High say that about me? Blah, 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 blah. And Omer, of course, then in confessional said that he lied about it. It wasn't true, but it kind of is true because he goes, you have to tell lies. You just don't have to tell stupid lies. All right, so tell lies that have some element of truth that are believable, and it is true that Mike is a goat for whoever wants to pick him up. He's just an extra vote for whoever wants him. So Mike said that High feels that way about him. And even if High didn't specifically say that, it's true that's how he feels. And maybe Mike doesn't feel that way. Maybe Mike, or maybe High doesn't really feel that way. Maybe High respects Mike more, but High knows he can beat him. High knows he can beat Mike. So that was what they said, and that kind of got the pot, stirring and got the wheels turning in Mike's head for later on in the episode. And then later on in the immunity challenge, it was a balancing a ball on a bow challenge, and it was cold and windy, and a lot of people fell early and didn't make it that far, and then it came down to ultimately Jonathan versus Lindsay. And ironically, High, a lot of people wanted High out. High and other people wanted High and Lindsay, for example, wanted Jonathan out. So it came down to it, and Lindsay ended up outlasting Jonathan. Lindsay won the immunity, so she won the individual reward, and then won the individual immunity. She's been pretty underrated. I mean, she's had some confessionals. I thought she's been playing a pretty solid game, but she's been pretty underrated the entire season so far. And now she comes out, wins the challenge, and then wins the reward as well, and then wins the immunity, and really gets the things start to roll. So huge week for Lindsay. We'll talk more about that in a little bit later on here. Spoiler alert, but it was really really interesting, and definitely a huge week for her, winning both those challenges. And then let's go ahead and talk about number 3, and this is kind of where the game kind of shifted a little bit. So they're talking about, Omer was planting the seed with Mike. Hey, we should go to High. High is running the show, and he's talking down to you, Mike, and blah blah blah. And Omer is definitely playing both sides for sure, and playing it very very well at this point. And then Jonathan, Lindsay was talking about how she got rid of Jonathan because of what she was saying, and that came up as like, hey, Jonathan's a huge threat. We got to get rid of him. So it looked like since neither one have immunity and neither one have idols that we know of, it makes sense to take out one of these threats right now. And so that's what they decided to do. So they decided, hey, you know what? It might be time to make a move on all these guys. Take out Jonathan, take out Hai. And it seemed like they were trending that way to take out Jonathan because he's a big threat. And then they looked like they were taking out Hai. And Omer's like, well, maybe I should work with Hai because I don't know we trust Hai. And I'm like, it could go either way. I really think it could go either way. I mean, if nobody trusts Hai and everyone wants to get rid of him, it might be best to get rid of him now. And then as long as Jonathan doesn't win all the immunities, you'll be able to take him out when you get a chance. My only fear with that, of course, is the early immunities, first like 4 or 5 individual immunities, are usually like balance, endurance, which the big strong guys don't do as well with. The 7th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5, those challenges usually are easier for the big strong guys. And there's not really any huge challenge beasts left. I mean, Mike's older. He's fine in the challenges, but he's older. Roxroy was okay. Dre's pretty good in challenges. Omer's not much. Lindsay's decent in challenges. Obviously, she won 2 of them. Hai was pretty good at challenges, so it's kind of like Hai could be the one to take out Jonathan to keep him from winning. But it came down to it: which threat are we going to be? So that's the moment. The matter number 3 is which threat are we going to take out? And it balanced. Looked like it was going to be Jonathan. It looked like it was going to be Hai. And Jonathan, I thought Jonathan was getting the Hibiki at it, where he wasn't going to. He had no confessionals in this episode. He had a couple scenes where he said a few things. And then I think maybe near the end he got a confessional, but they showed him talking to Omar about, hey, we have to take out Hai, and because Hai's told me he has an idol, but I know he doesn't. He's lying to me, blah blah blah. He says he's gonna play it on me. Of course he's not. But Jonathan didn't really have much any confessionals, so it was. I thought maybe we were getting Hibiki at it, where he's in a lot of the episodes, and then doesn't get a confessional in his food episode. So that maybe might be what was gonna happen, but. It looked like it was going to be Hai, and then Omer's like, maybe we should keep Hai because no one wants to work with him. I can work with him and use him to get rid of Jonathan, and then we can get rid of Hai later because nobody wants to work with him. Maybe that was the right move. I really don't know. But ultimately, Drea and Lindsay were talking about, hey, they mentioned to Mike and Omer about the amulet they have. So they take out Hai, the amulet becomes more powerful because Drea and Lindsay can share that. So, and it would become a vote steal because now it's just an extra vote. If they use it, as a pair, it's a vote steal. So they can even maybe do that. Use that if Jonathan doesn't win immunity, steal his vote and take him out using the amulet. Certainly an option. But the biggest thing is, of course, him not winning immunity. And Drea was like, we got to get rid of Hai, and it seemed like the momentum was going to take Hai out, but Lindsay wanted Jonathan. So she was kind of, what do we do? And she ended up just saying, well, if everyone's Hai, I'll just go with Hai this time and get Jonathan next time. And then Omer was on board with that, and they're like, well, maybe we should keep Hai and get rid of Jonathan this time because we can get rid of Hai, and Hai is not as much of a challenge threat. So the debate went back and forth for a while, and they had to decide which big threat they wanted to remove from the game, and they ultimately made their decision. So let's go ahead and talk about who did not survive this week. So it came down to it. There's 8 people left in the game. Ended up being 6 votes for Hai and 2 votes for Jonathan. Only Romeo and Hai voted for Jonathan. The other ones voted for Hai. And it was interesting too because at Tribal Council, Lindsay played it almost a little too well. Because they asked her, she had the immunity, and they're like, well, what is this vote based on tonight? And she goes, this vote is based on making an even playing field. And taking out somebody who's head and shoulders better than everybody else, and making this game, it's easier for everybody else going forward. And then Jonathan kind of reacted what do you mean? And Jeff asked him about it. Jonathan's like, I'm not really sure what to think of this. What do you think of this thing? I might want to I take a minute to really digest what she just said. And it was interesting because I knew what she was saying. I think everybody around her was saying what she was saying, and Hai thought he knew what she was saying. But everybody else knew but Jonathan didn't know what she was saying, right? Jonathan thought she was saying, we got to take out the biggest physical threat in the game and make it easier for everyone else to win immunity. But what she was saying is we got to take out the biggest strategic threat in the game, make it easier for everybody else to win. And that was, Hai. And Hai thought she was referring to Jonathan. Everybody else except maybe Jonathan thought she was referring to Hai. So, and now that they did decide to vote out Hai, Lindsay can go to Jonathan and say, oh, Jonathan, no. Of course, I was talking about Hai. and she said that for High's effect, right? So High wouldn't get spooked and play an idol or whatever, or play a shot in the dark. So she's like, yeah, of course I was saying that for High, because or for High, I didn't think it was you, but of course I wasn't really meaning it about High, and then she can say, you're not that big of a challenge, Jonathan. I beat you twice, right? So that and that lowers his threat, makes him feel better that he's not like threat number one, and then they can blindside him when he doesn't win again. So I think she if he really plays this well, and or Omer, if they really play this well, after this vote, and go back to Jonathan, really make him feel comfortable, I think they have a really good shot to take him out as soon as he doesn't win. But they did decide to take out High. And why did High lose? What did High do wrong this week? It's one of those things where it's become Survivor. Even really, you can kind of look at even 39 on, and 40 was a little different because they really kept the threats in the game a long time, and that was maybe a mistake. But it's really become, with all the randomness and everything, which is maybe not a good thing. But that's even 38, 39, a little bit of 37, and then 41 for sure, which these players didn't see. As soon as somebody makes a move, they become a threat and they get taken out. So it's like you have to be in the shadows. You have to be the puppet behind the scenes. You have to be able to claim moves, but nobody else knows you're claiming the move. Like nobody else, you have to be able to be like in on all the votes, and have good relationships with everybody, so you can go wherever the way the vote is going, you can go, but not be seen as the person taking control. And High, like so many people before him, like Ricard last season, who reminded me a lot of High. High reminded me a lot of Ricard. They were both on the green team too. You can go back even further than that. You can look at Missy from 39, and before that it was maybe whoever. You can go back even further. And anybody perceived Lauren from that season. Later on in the game, and whomever. You can keep going further back. 38 it looked like, 38 looked like Ron was running the show, and then it looked like Eric was running the show, and then it looked like Ron was running the show, and then and then it was Julia was running the show, and then you had to take them out. Everybody who was perceived as running the show got taken out every week pretty much. Whoever made the move the week before got taken out, and it's kind of been a trend for a while on the show. And it was even 37. Gabby was running the show, she gets taken out. Christian's running the show, he gets taken out. You can go back really even further than that. And that's a huge thing. So you have to make enough moves to win the game, unless you're Erica. But if you make any moves, people see you as a threat. So you have to kind of, it's kind of crazy how it comes full circle. I think it's kind of resorting back to the Ethan Zahn, original season of Survivor, season 3 in Africa. Ethan Zahn always says it's way better to be the assistant coach than the head coach, because the assistant coach will take all the heat. The assistant coach will get all the credit, which you don't necessarily want if you're trying to avoid being a threat. And you can be the assistant coach. So the assistant coach goes to the players and says, "Hey, I'm with you. I'm your ally. And I'm your bridge between the coach and you." And then he goes to the coach, and the coach, and they're close to the coach because they're a coach, right? And that's a lot of times with I look at that a lot of times like management and stuff like that. You have the head manager, the big boss, and then you have the little employees at the bottom of the pyramid, and then you have the assistant manager in the middle. And the assistant manager can go to the manager and plead the case of the employees, and then they can also go to the employees, plead the case of the manager, and kind of be that go-between, and they're kind of friends with both sides. And that's really kind of what you want to be. It's having that social game to be able to do that, and treating everybody like they're your best friend, but not openly doing it so people see it, right? It's the little moments that really make a big difference in the game, and obviously at the reward challenge with Lindsay and Mike and all them and Omer, they got videos of their family. They have to watch videos from their members of the family because they're not going to be able to be a family visit with COVID, filming during COVID. So they had to, just have videos. And Lindsay and Omer and Mike being able to see the videos, it really bonded them together. And it really made things a lot. Mike is now I think Mike's pretty much in their corner now. Because just the little moments like that really help, and you get to know the people and you get to understand them and what makes them tick. So why did High lose? I just think he when I think he cut off his options a little bit too much. I said before, getting rid of Lydia, him deciding to vote against Lydia, and they really didn't have a choice, because there's only a few people who were available. But him deciding to go against Lydia, I think really killed him. Because if he would have had Lydia, he could have had that other option. Lydia had her friends, he has his friends, and then, whatever way is the best way for the two of them to go, they could have gone. But instead, he cast Lydia aside for Omer and Mike and Jonathan, and it really limited his options. So someone like Omer, who can go anywhere, he's friends with everybody. Romeo thinks he's his number one. Drea thinks she's a top one with her, and Lindsay. Lindsay's number one with Omer now. Marianne's close with Omer. Jonathan's close with Omer. Hai was close. So he's the kind of nucleus. If you take him out, everybody's gonna be scattered, obviously, but nobody's really thinking of that because they all think he's got their best interest at heart. And a lot of the moves are being blamed on somebody else, right? I mean, they could blame this on Lindsay. They could blame this on Mike. And he's still insulated. So it's really the biggest thing is having options and being good with everybody. Because Hai really, when Hai took out Lydia, that kind of left him with the guys' lines with Roxroy and Mike and all them. And then Roxroy gets taken out, and Mike's like, "Well, am I next then?" Because I said it before, people can see you. Okay, he just took out his number one ally. What will happen to me? I'm not even that close to him. Is he gonna take me out next? Because he cut Lydia's throat, which was number one. What's he gonna do to me? Oh, I don't even know him that well. And that's making that move, you really put yourself into a corner, and that's not a place you want to be. So I think that's really what Hai did wrong. I think he played a very, very strategic game, and he made moves, and that was great. But I think he limited his options a little bit too much. And when the time came for him, there was nobody who stand up for him saying, "No, we can't let him go. We need him." The numbers were going a certain way, and he allowed he took out enough of his own allies because he figured, oh, well, we have to take out the threats, and that's fine. But everybody's a threat for a different reason. A jury goat could be a threat because they're taking a spot that could be yours. So the different threats are different reasons, and I think Hai was maybe the right decision to make this week because Jonathan's still out front, is still overtly a threat. Hai is more sneaky, under the radar threat. And I think I think that's really what his problem was this week, is he was too much of a threat. People saw him as a threat, and they had to make a move, and they couldn't just sit back and let him do his thing because if you don't take him out now, you take out Jonathan, that's fine. But now people are like, well, I want this one, I want this one, on this one. And you keep that one bigger threat there, one bigger target there, that keeps everybody focused on that target, and it takes the target off of Omer or Lindsay or whoever else is in the game. So I think that's what Hai did wrong. I think that's what everybody else did right, and that's why Hai did not survive. Let's go ahead now and talk about the top three and bottom three. We'll start with the bottom three this week. It's really hard to kind of put anybody in the bottom three because there's 2 votes that went against someone who didn't go home, and everybody else voted for the person who did go home. So it's really hard to kind of say who is in the bottom three. But I do have to put number 1 on the bottom three right now is Jonathan. And only because everybody sees him as a threat. Everybody knows he's a threat. Everybody knows they got to get rid of him. They can't keep him around much longer. And his name came up today. Obviously, he was saved by the vote. He was saved from being voted out. But he is a huge, huge threat, and there's no denying it. There's no hiding that fact. And I think one of the biggest problems for him right now is that, once your name's out there, once everybody sees his heart, he's got to keep winning immunities, or he's got to hope that Omer can save him, or Lindsay can save him. And I think Omer and Lindsay are kind of like, all right, we're going to work together with us, and the 4 of us can go as far in the game as we can. But if it's Jonathan's time to go, it's Jonathan's time to go. And I don't think they're going to put their neck on the line for him anymore because he's such a big threat. They don't want to be seen as like the one protecting him. And not for nothing, but if he keeps winning immunity, well, if they can't take out Jonathan, they might take out one of his allies. So it's really Jonathan's days have to be numbered unless he can win immunity or somehow find an idol. And we'll talk about the idol here in a minute, but that was I think that's a problem for Jonathan is it really makes no sense for anybody in the game to keep him in the game at this point. It really doesn't. Even though he's a good ally and whatever, it really doesn't make any sense for anybody to keep him. So he's in big trouble. And so he could go next week. He could win immunity. Anything can happen. but I do think he's a big threat, and I think his days definitely are numbered. I had him as my number 11 person on the board, and he's still in the game, but number 11 usually goes out right on the merge, and he's survived longer than I thought he would. He's a way better player than I expected him to be, but I think his days are numbered. Let's go and talk about number 2 in the bottom 3. That is going to be Romeo. And Romeo's here for really 2 reasons. One, he really didn't like Hai. He was playing a pretty emotional game. He kind of wanted to take out Hai. And that's a thing. But then he voted with Hai, so he was the only one who didn't vote, I guess, correctly. So I really think he's pretty much drawing dead at this point. I mean, I don't. Maybe he'll go to the final 3 and get no votes. I think he'll probably get knocked out in the next vote or so. But nobody's really coming for him. I think once they take out, like in the next big threat, maybe they take out Jonathan, or if Jonathan wins immunity, they said Romeo's easy vote. They even said at the beginning of this episode, Romeo's easy vote. And they didn't want to go with the easy vote. They want to make a move. So they did. But I think if it comes down to it, Jonathan won the immunity. Well, I guess it's time for Romeo, and it's going to depend on. I think Drea is really the only person who's kind of close with him, and he wasn't even in on this vote with her. So I think Drea's kind of over him too, because he's been very emotional and everything else. So I think it might be the way to go. Is he might be? I think he's an easy next vote. Whatever that ends up being, he's an easy next vote. So I think that's why his days are numbered. And finally, for the final person, the final person in the bottom 3. This one was tough. I really wasn't sure where to go with this one, because nobody who really had necessarily a bad week. Only 2 people didn't vote the same way, and one of them got voted out. But I even though she found an idol this week, I'm going to go with Marianne here in the bottom 3. And I mean, obviously she found an idol. She went out. It looked like Lindsay was going to find it, but she actually looked right past it. And then later, Marianne went out and found it. So she used her idol last week, wasted it, but found another one. So it does go to say, you're better off using an idol when you don't need it than obviously needing it and not using it. So. But I do put Marianne here just for her long-term viability in the game. I don't see her being I do see her. I think she has a way better chance of getting 0 votes at the end than winning the game. Obviously, crazy things have happened. I didn't think Eric had much of a shot either, and she ended up winning. So who knows? Marianne is very likable, so that does help. But I don't see her being a 0 vote. I don't see her being a 0 vote finalist who gets eviscerated in the final 3. I don't see her being like someone who gets like just ripped apart and being, you suck and you're horrible and we hate you. But I see her being someone who's like, yeah, what'd you do? We don't really take you seriously. You're funny. More like the Nora type. Like Nora didn't really get ripped apart. In the final 3. Nora got like the, yeah, okay, you're here, you're a clown. And I think that's kind of what Marianne's going to get, unfortunately for her. She did find an idol, so she should at least be in the final 6. And then, we'll see what happens from there. I think, there are other people who they want to take out before her, other bigger threats, and then also, bigger, goats that they want to slaughter. I think they want to take out a goat, they take out Romeo. They want to take out a threat, they take out Jonathan. And then, and then maybe Marianne around there. But again, if she can get a good read, plays her idol correctly, who knows? She could definitely be at least even in the finale, which would be kind of shocking for my person who I picked to go out first. And Hai definitely surprised me. I didn't think he'd be, this deep in the game, this good a player. I had him going 15th. So that was interesting too. But I do have Marianne here. It was a good week for that because she won the idol. But other than that, I don't really see her stock being too high as far as the winner. No pun intended. Now, at least not as high as Hai was. So that's why I have Marianne here in the bottom 3. Let's go now and talk about the top 3 for the week. We'll talk about number 3 in the top 3, and I'm going to go with Drea. With Drea, for 2 reasons. She did, play her idol last week, and she needed it, so I guess that was good. Obviously, she played it before, so they didn't. We don't know if she would need it because the plan was to take her out, but she played her idol beforehand, so they didn't even bother voting for her. And then everything like from there. She does still have her extra vote. She does still have her amulet, and she does still have her knowledge is power advantage. Now, it would have been really nice to know, Marianne had the idol, you could use that knowledge is power to steal that idol from her. And now Marianne found another one, and nobody really knows that one. Marianne obviously keeping this one secret, so which is smart. But I think everybody still knows that Mike has an idol, and he's the only one. I think he's the only left from Green, right? I think so. Yeah. So I mean, I think everybody knows Mike has an idol, so she could definitely use that if they want, especially if they want to get rid of, they want to get rid of Mike. He's not really a person who's going to get a lot of votes at the end. I don't think. Especially because, and I wasn't sure, I was thinking maybe putting him in the bottom three, but really wasn't sure. Maybe putting him in the top three. But again, he says he doesn't want to lie to anybody, then he has to lie to them to vote them out. And so it's one of those things where if you go and play a very completely straight up game, people are going to vote you out because you're too much of a wild card because you just go tell people when the game voted out. But then if you say you don't want to lie and you want to be honest, well, then you have to lie to play the game. So it's kind of hard to be that kind of player and go far. So I think Drea could steal his idol. I could see it happening. I could see, obviously she has her amulet, so her vote steals. So, it could really be one of those things where they steal like Jonathan's vote and then Drea steals Mike's idol, for example. Especially because nobody else knows she has it, which is the key. Obviously last season when Liana had it, other people knew she had it. And that made it more difficult. So for her, easy. She just goes ahead and, ask Mike if he has the idol. It's the knowledge of power, so he has to give her the idol if he has it. And then she steals his idol and then can use it for herself or whoever. And then she can steal. Her and Lindsay want to work together and steal, like say Jonathan's vote or Mike's vote. They can really make it impossible for them. So I'm thinking too, the shot in the dark. I'm thinking if you lose your vote, you can't use the shot in the dark because you're giving up your vote. And if you can't give up your vote, then you can't use the shot in the dark, I would assume. So Drea still has a lot of ammunition. She seems to have a good relationship with Lindsay. So if the two of them could really work together, kind of behind the scenes. And then if her and Lindsay and Omer really want to take control of the game, I think they really are in a position to do so. And now that Hai's out of the game, they kind of freed up they took out the biggest power play in the game, and now, really it's anybody's game at this point, I feel like. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Drea's here over everybody else, with the third person here, just for the fact that she has all this power. And I think that's kind of why I have her here. Then obviously there's only a few weeks left. Around the 7, we'll probably have the finale at 5. Still have 2 weeks in the finale, which makes sense. It's May. We'll have one. So it's May 4th. Yep, and then we'll have one on the 11th. And then one on the 11th, and then one on the 18th, and then the finale on the week after. Because they usually the first week of March, and they waited till March Madness was over or whatever, or they wanted to wait till the Olympics were over, I think. So they started a week later, so they'll probably be ending, late May instead of early or mid May. Either way. Doesn't really matter. So we'll see how it goes. But I think she has a lot of power, and a lot of people. And the good thing about her is, like so many other people in the game, a lot of people knew about each other's powers, and I don't think a lot of people know about her power. I mean, she says she has the amulet, and people know that. And I think she has I think people know she has an extra vote, but they don't know necessarily about her. Her other advantage she has in the game. So, so we'll see. The knowledge of power one, which is maybe the biggest one. So we'll see what happens. But I have Dre here in the top 3. Number 2 in the top 3, I have Omer. He's probably number 1 overall. If I had to put money on who was going to win, and ironically, my number 1 is already out, but my 2 and 3 are in good shape. Knock on wood. So, Omer is probably the chalk pick to win the game as of right now. Which I'd be really pumped. He'll be disappointed. He'll be the first Canadian to win because last season the Canadian won. But the Canadians are really doing well. Dre, I think, we spent some time in Canada. Marianne's from Canada, and then Omer. So these Canadians, I don't know what's up with them, but all of a sudden these Canadians are just tearing up the Survivor world, and it's kind of they're kind of showing up us Americans a little bit. But anyways, so I have Omer here. Just again, he came up with the plan. He got the planted seed in Mike's head and got Mike to flip on Hai. Didn't necessarily even need him to, really, because he could have done it without him. But he pulled Mike and made Mike his number one, or Mike thinks he's number one, and Mike was willing to turn on his old number one, and and Omer said, "Hey, I'm not gonna treat you like Hyde does," and Mike's like, "Okay," and that was it. You jumped over. So Omer's got really good working relationships with everybody. It's gonna be, unless he doesn't make fire, or I just don't see him getting knocked out. I really don't see anybody wanting to come for him unless an idle play knocks him out, or he goes to the fire making and then he gets knocked out with that. That's the only way I see Omer not winning. Because nobody. Like I said, if they want a gun for a threat, they got Jonathan. If they want a gun for a goat, they got even Marianne or even Romeo. And then beyond that, they can knock out Mike, and now they're in the final the final four. So. Or final three, even. I think that's the final three. So it's really, he's there's only a couple more chances to get rid of him. And again, unless something happens with a idle play or something, I just don't see anybody taking him out. So he's got really good working relationships. I don't think anybody dislikes him. I can see really the entire jury at this point being willing to vote for him. So to win the game. So he's definitely in a great spot. So he's number 2 this week, just based on that. And number 1 has to be Lindsay. Obviously, the play of the week has to be Lindsay. And again, this is not, everybody, the other two are kind of overall. This is just a this week thing. But Lindsay, this is really her coming out party. And I remember, we've had other episodes in the past, people who weren't getting a huge edit, had a big week, and we're like, okay, here they go. And then they didn't really again. They kind of snuck back and fell back in the background again. There's only 7 players left. If you're going to make your move, 8, 7, 6, take control of the game around that spot when it's kind of too late to take you out. So if she wants to take out Jonathan next, and then, really, she could really be set up nicely as long as she doesn't overplay, as long as she doesn't become too much of a threat. Obviously, her new thing is she's going to have to take out, and in the next couple weeks, we'll talk about kind of there's only going to be 6 players left after the next week, so we'll have a top 3, bottom 3, and that'll be pretty much it. So we'll kind of be able to rank them a little bit based on that, and with our finale preview show, we'll kind of dive a little deeper into it. Who's got the best chances of winning, which of course I never get right. But I think next week too is going to be the thing where if you are the first one out of the challenge, if you sit out of the challenge, you're fine. If you participate in your first one out, you have the thing with the Sean had last season, where you have a 1 in 3 odds of staying in the game. The Sophie's Choice type thing, or whatever it is. Let's make a deal. So we'll see how that goes, and who ends up getting, screwed on that. It could be even Omer, which would be crazy. I could see, I don't see him necessarily going out that early in the challenge. More like a Romeo or maybe a Marianne. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be quite interesting. And somebody could really, really get pretty heavily screwed by that twist next week. Aside from that, like I said, again, with Lindsay, her what she needs to do now is take out Jonathan, and then maybe take out like a Marianne or a Romeo, and then go to the final 4 with Drea, or even take out Jonathan and then take out Drea, maybe even. I don't know. Because I think there's a few people who could definitely beat Lindsay, but I think she's probably the 3rd or 4th best. I think she'll have the 3rd best chance of winning, or 4th best chance of winning. So I think she'll take out Marianne, or Romeo, but definitely Jonathan, Omer, and Drea, and then take Mike and whoever's left between Marianne and Romeo, and go to the end with them. And I think she's got a good shot. But there's other bigger threats around her. I don't know if she'll be able to get them out in time. So her best bet right now, I think, is to ride with Marianne, ride with even Romeo, and then Mike, and then knock out somebody at the final 4, whether it's have Omer make fire, and Mike's better at it potentially, or whatever. But we'll see. So definitely a big week for her. It may be maybe too many people left in the game that can beat her for her to be able to win. But definitely a big week this week. I still think she has the best odds of winning. But definitely a big week for her, and she definitely earned that. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to next week, where we can kind of take the final 6 and kind of break them down and see who's got the best chances, and then go from there. But be sure to subscribe if you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com, Pavement Road Productions on Facebook. Email show directly, payrollproductions@gmail.com. Subscribe, share the post, tell your friends. I'm hoping to have Jessica back here next week, and either way, we're going to have our NHL playoff preview show in the next day or so coming out, so I'm going to have Jessica on that one. When she's feeling better, we'll get that out. Again, we wanted to get that out a few days ago, but Jessica just hasn't been up for it with her way she's been feeling, so hopefully she's better. We can get that out next day or so here. I think we should be good to go. Get this out by, the weekend, obviously. By the time the show comes out, the playoffs will already have been started. But we kind of did this before. We did the, wrote everything down to the notes and everything for the show before the playoffs. So we're not spoiled by any means. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Instead, if you like our sports content, let us know. We'll try to do more of that. If you like our news and talk, and politics stuff, let us know. We'll do more of that. And if you want us to watch other TV shows and recap them and talk about them, let us know about that too. You can do it on social media, on Facebook. You can do it right on. We might get back on Twitter at some point here. I don't know. We also, you can subscribe right there. Say something right in the comments what you want to know, or even email us directly. Let us know what you think. So definitely appreciate you listening. Thanks for being with us here today. And until next time, I got nothing else for you because the tribe has spoken.